entrepreneurial spirit has been in you for a long time. I read that one of your first jobs was actually selling speedos full time in a retail store, and you also hustled and sold them on the side at swim meets, and that hustle helped you pay for college. So I'm curious, like, what motivated you to take that on at such a young age?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I should say I was a competitive swimmer growing up, so it wasn't I just randomly started selling speedos. So there was
I wanted to
a
know
little
where
bit
the
of
product
correlation.
decision came from there. Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
maybe, I don't want to give a visual, but like maybe he was a model before he was a seller. I don't know. It's up to Marcus.
No. I got a voice for, a face for radio, right? As I've heard. So, with selling that was a lot of fun. And, for me, it's very simple. The drive came from a massive fear of failure. That's really where it came from, right? My parents were immigrants. They came to America. We were very poor growing up. So, I was always worried about losing our house, becoming homeless. And then once I was going to go to school, they really, in Asian culture, they value education very highly. So going to school, I want to go to school, but I didn't want to take on any school debt. And I want to find a way to go to school without having debt. And I knew, I wrote scholarship essays. I got some scholarships, but I knew I can control my work effort and ethic, and I can apply that to make money. It wasn't a lot of money, but enough to pay for school. And that, to me, was really important to graduate with really no baggage, if you will, going into my quote adult life without having looming, 20, 30, 40, 50K in debt plus interest on top. I want to be able to start fresh and new to do it. But on top, more importantly, I also want to be able to build an investment portfolio even before I started, before I graduated. That was important to me to have a plan for the future because of that fear of failure of being homeless. I knew I had to.
Yeah, you had a fire under you, and it seems like that is still there in you. It's that drive, that hustle. So that's super interesting. Quick timeout question: are you a parent? I'm gonna ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, I am. I have a yep.
Also a father, so I'm curious, how do you instill that drive as a father as well?
Yeah, so it's so critical, right? So my toddler, he's almost 4, and I think what's really important is I think at the end of the day, yes, as parents, we could talk a big game about, hey, work hard and you got to earn it, whatever, right? But more importantly, I think it's really important to display the behavior they can see as a pure example for them, right? So as Roman, my son, he knows, like, when I'm in my office, when I'm in the zone, I'm in the zone. He knows that, right? He does come and wants to distract me and play and do all these fun things, but he knows once dad's in his office, it's go time, right? It's go time, right? So he knows that. He knows once dad walks out of the office, it's playtime. And that's really, really important. And I do my best to try to have a separation where I'm not bleeding over the work into the personal stuff, but he knows I have a zone where I'm doing the work in, and that's important. And on top of that, what I am working on, it's still a little bit of a challenge, right? But he's grown up in a very different environment, right, than I grew up in as a kid. I grew up in a very, very small house. We had nothing nice. I mean, we were poor as heck. And, ramen was a luxury. He has a nice house, a nice living. It's very comfortable. It's great for him. It's a very different environment. So it's hard. It's a struggle for me to also work to help him develop the right perceptions about money, wealth, working hard, and ethic, and going and earning it. So one of the things is whenever he says he wants something, like, Amazon sent us a catalog, which is very smart of them, with all these toys in there. He's going through, like, circling what he wants. And he's like, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And I say, great. But how are we going to get the money to go get it, right? How are we going to get the money to do it, right? Well, he's like, oh, Dad, you're going to go work. I'm like, sure, I'm going to do that. But what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? So that's one of the things where I'm working to hopefully develop some really core, strong values at an early age. So he will hopefully grow up with the right values to know, hey, you know what? Nothing is deserved and everything is earned.
I love it. Great. You walk the walk, you talk the talk. Right. I love it.
And great advice for me is I've got a new 2-month-old. She's not asking me those questions yet, but now I've got some good answers. When my turn for the Amazon catalog hits the address.
Right. We got that too.
Yeah. Marcus, you also had a big accomplishment this year, and I want to congratulate you. You made the top 10 LinkedIn sales voice this year. So congrats.
Hey, thanks very, very much. It was a lot of work. It wasn't easy, but I feel very fortunate to have achieved that.
And that's what segued my thought of having us have this topic for today, which is, I mean, you're the CEO of a consulting firm that helps salespeople get better. You're constantly on LinkedIn helping salespeople get better. So the topic was pretty easy. So I'd love to hear from you as we enter 2021. We're recording this at the end of 2020. What are the 5 things that sales pros can do, in your opinion, to improve themselves?
Yeah, great question. Obviously, I could list off so many things, right? But to keep it very simple, and obviously we have so much time for our podcast today, right? So number one, I would say would be, if you haven't started yet, start using video as much as possible in your outreach. That's number one, okay? Number two is making sure you are creating and putting out useful content that will become a lead generation machine that works for you 24/7. Number three, mastering the pattern interrupt, using pattern interrupts as a way to engage and interact with your potential prospects. And number four, using power priming exercises. Since we're all work from home right now, obviously it can be tough. So you need to have powerful priming exercises that put you in a peak performing state every single day to give your best. And then number five is making sure that you are constantly investing in your own development in 2021 and beyond, so you become the best version of yourself, not just for your job, but for your life.
That's a great hot list. I'll be honest, I'm most, I would say, interested. I love a good pattern interrupt. I work on it all the time. Sheena and I have had a speech coach where that was like, chapter one in terms of writing content for presenting. So I'm excited for that one. And I have no idea what power priming exercises are, but I have a feeling you're going to challenge me to do some of those today. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Let's start with the first one, which is using video for outreach. It's been around for a while. I can't say that it's novel anymore, but I still think there's been some hesitation for sales teams to truly adopt it, right? Phone, yes. Email, of course. Video, like going to the gym. You should do it. You could do it, but you'll probably, you'll do fine without it. You've got tools like Drift and BombBomb, and I'm sure Vidyard, a few other ones out there. Why do you think that using video is so effective, and why is it so important to do this year immediately?
Yeah, great question, right? So the first off is, at the end of the day, the path of least resistance where most people go, okay? So you think about a C-level exec, they get a lot of emails, they probably get some cold calls and phone calls, but it's because it's hard to send video, because it takes work and effort, and it takes some courage to actually do, they don't receive that many. So when you send a video, number one, that's a pattern interrupt. Okay, you're already standing out by just doing that. So that increases your chance of a response rate just from there as a result. And and I've seen across the board, right? I think Kevin Dorsey posted he had some job openings opening up. He's like, I think it was like we had 100 people, reach out, and only like 3 people did video, right? Those 3 people are the ones that stood out, right? So that's across the board. So number one, it's huge for just a pattern to stand out. The second thing is when you use video, it really increases your KLT factor, your know, like, and trust factor. When someone sees you on video, they can see your facial expression, your body language, how you are, and really, are you a legitimate person, or are you some sort of automated sequence getting sent to them? So when you do that video, you stand out. Like I still do video DMs even in my LinkedIn. And I mean, I got a message back from yesterday and they're like, wow. And this happens pretty often. They're like, wow, I literally have never, ever received a video that was customized to me. And it blew their mind, right? So video is such a powerful tool because people can read your body language. They can see how you communicate, how you carry yourself, your eyes. They can see your face. They can see your background. They can see all around you. So they can make some quick judgments very quickly. And that visual piece really feeds into the trust part of their brain. And as a result, then they're going to be more open to having a conversation with you. And that's such a powerful way to start off a relationship with them thinking, wow, you stood out. And I might not know you well enough, but my know, like, and trust factor is already increasing with you. And by the extra effort, because they know it's not easy, you've already stood out. And of course, obviously, the better you are on camera, the better it's going to come out for the video too.
We've talked about video on the show before, and we've talked about like the importance from a performance perspective, from standing out, just a response that you get. But I honestly hadn't really thought about the trust side of things. And I think that's really interesting. Just, you are another human on the other side, and demonstrating your professionalism, all of that can come through in a video. It can't come through as easily in the written word.
100%, 100%. And also when you can see them visually and you can hear them and you can see their facial expressions, right? Because on the video, you'll obviously get the audio portion as well. You can hear their tone, their pace, their inflection, the pausing, and all the parts that are really key for a great communicator. So when you add all those things in together, it allows you to gain trust so much faster. Right. Mm-hmm. And then people actually know, hey, you know what? This is a real person. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, nobody wants to be pitched, and nobody wants to have buyer's remorse for anything they buy as a consumer or as a business. So you start off with the right foot by doing something nobody else does, or very small percentage does. And then on top of that, they can see you. And if you do a good job on camera, that the KLT factor increases, and that increases your chance of getting responses, booking more meetings, closing more opportunities, and really building off a real relationship and partnership with this potential prospect.
And I have to say, Marcus, I would say I trusted you before I met you today. I didn't have any reason to distrust you. And, we have some mutual friends who've co-signed. But in all seriousness, right when we got on this call, you had your video up, and I could sense your energy. You had a smile on your face, and it did make me trust you and like you faster probably than if I had just been looking at a great, LinkedIn photo. So for what it's worth, folks, it worked on me today.
I love it.
So number 2 on your list was create useful content to generate and nurture leads 24/7. When sales thinks about content creation, they are typically, pointing their fingers and looking over at their marketing colleagues. What does content creation mean for a sales pro, and how can they start creating that on their own?
Yeah, so great question, right? Now, at the end of the day, we have to reframe how we think about content. Content is an asset. And if you use it the proper way as a sales professional, it's not, hey, this is marketing's job, this is a sales job. You want to have a full understanding of both. And when you understand, hey, you know what, if I also create content as well, it's only going to help me. And the mistake I see sometimes with sales professionals on LinkedIn is, they might be selling, they're selling, say, HR software, but all they post about is sales tips. Well, that's cool, but that's not useful content for the target market. So what you really want to focus on specifically creating useful, powerful content, really helpful content, or, educational, or, the edutainment content for your target market. And that does take some intentionality and focus, but also on top of that, that does mean you need to make sure you're constantly building your audience of the right target market as well in your, your LinkedIn followers. Otherwise, they're not going to see it. And that takes intentionality. And the more you do it, the more you're going to serve them. But let me get really specific, because I want people to be able to walk away and say, you know what, I can go and do this, right? Because a lot of times people overcomplicate what type of content to create. So think of it this way. You think of your target market. Let's just say it's HR managers. I'm just going to choose one, HR managers. And what you want to think about is, for them, what's going to be of true value for them? And forget about what you sell. Okay, forget that you sell HR software. Just think, what are their biggest challenges, issues, and problems? What are their heartburns, right? And you can literally Google it. It's not that hard, okay? You can literally find the most common books HR managers read, find it on Amazon, go on to Amazon, look at the reviews, look at 2 through 4 stars, choose those 2 through 4 star reviews, read through them, and see their complaints, and write content about that if you want to do that, right? But if you want a super ninja hack, super simple, if maybe you don't want to think that way, let's say you find the HR manager, find out what are the biggest issues. Let's just say they struggle with turnover, okay? So you go and find a great book on, the 7 hidden reasons why employees turn over, okay? Go through, get the summary that you probably Google, get for free, or go buy the book on Amazon, get all the chapters, read each chapter, take notes, and create a post focused on each chapter. That book has 15 chapters. You now have 15 tips you can put out to help reduce turnover for HR managers. So now when you're engaging with HR managers, they see what you're putting out. They're like, wow, this is really useful, actually. I never thought about it this way. So now you become a resource and authority. So now when you're engaging with them, they're more open to having a conversation with you. They're more open to accepting your requests. It actually nurtures them nonstop. And the cool part is this, like say, for example, you're creating content consistently. You send a connection request. Let's say they accept it, but then they don't even respond to your first video, your first DM. And maybe you sent a great video and they still don't respond. But they're kind of like, and they're just not sure about you. But now, as you're consistently putting out valuable, helpful content for your target market, the HR manager, they're getting nurtured. And they're getting nurtured over time. The more content you put out, right? And if you're really strategic, you're also doing your LinkedIn stories too. So now you nurture them with value. So eventually, the timing is right. Your next outreach, they may answer that phone call. They may respond to that email, or they might just reach out to you. Like I'll give you an example for my business. I average 8 to 12 inbound leads daily as a result of the content I do. Some days are better than others, but it's a machine. It's like a train. It's like a dead stop when you first start doing content. And once you start pushing, it takes a lot of work up front. But as you get a little bit momentum, you keep going, and eventually it starts picking up speed more and more. And then the leads machine starts churning nonstop. But once you stop, it'll eventually start slowly like dying down, right? It's kind of like when you get that 6-pack, you got to keep eating clean. Otherwise, you gain back the beer belly.
Not that I have a 6-pack, but I can say that is by far the hardest thing to maintain.
Right.
I like a lot of what you had broken down. I think too, for folks who might be thinking, man, a book, Marcus, you want me to go read a whole book just to write some LinkedIn posts? Don't think of it just as single-minded or single track of like, I'm only getting the value of these LinkedIn posts. You're also educating yourself on your buyer. And those insights will come up on conversations that you're having every single day. And so you will have, attained that, the trusted advisor that, every salesperson wants to strive for. You really have to know the ins and outs of that buyer. Like you said, the things that the heartburn, I like that. I hadn't heard that one yet. And, if you start to understand the historical problems and the kind of future predictions of the folks that you're selling into, you can really start to have more meaningful conversations in that way. The other thing that you had mentioned was the kind of work up front. Yeah. Personally, I can say that is definitely the case. You got to kind of start slow. It feels slow, even though you're putting in the work. But I'm sure for you, these 8 or 10 leads, the first time that they saw your post was not, they didn't see one post and then reached out to Marcus for his business. They were probably following you for days, most likely months, maybe even years.
Oh yeah.
But you've been on their mind, then you've crept up to the middle of their mind. And then now they're like, I know what Marcus solves. I know what these problems are and what he talks about. So if they're in a meeting with Sheena in a strategy meeting and that problem comes up, you're top of mind. You're exactly who they're reaching out to. And you've primed them as well with a lot of that KLT.
100%, right? And what happens is, it's when you do it consistently, you start showing consistently, you just become known. People start knowing, liking, and trusting you a lot more. And reality is when you have that personal brand around that, and here's the thing, I intentionally chose something like HR software because that's not glamorous. That's not something that's like super cool. You're not selling like a Tesla or something, right? You're selling like HR software, right? That could be cool or not, depending on who you talk to. But, at the end of the day, when you build that personal brand of someone say, hey, you know what, whatever they say, I believe. It's kind of like this. If Gary Vaynerchuk says, hey, go buy this, Yeti mug, everyone would go out and buy it because that KLT factor is super high, right? Because he's got a great personal brand. He could start selling, start selling remotes. And then suddenly he's selling lights out because he's got that personal brand. And as sales professionals, especially in 2021 beyond, if you are really strategic and have this marketing mind on top of a sales mind, you utilize platforms like LinkedIn and other social media platforms to be able to create a lead generation machine that helps nurture your prospects. Because even if, let's say you have a meeting and they don't end up, going with you, they go with somebody else, no problem. If you're just still top of mind, they're still thinking about you. And that might be 6 months, 12 months down the road, they start working with you, right? So at the end of the day, you must play the long game. And when you can play the long game, you can build a thriving business and territory that you own. But if you play the short game, you're like, hey, I put a post out there, I didn't get any leads. Well, that's not going to serve you in the long run. You got to remember, At the end of the day, it's hard for a reason. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Right? Still 1% on LinkedIn is the people that post, right? So you can be part of that 1%, take advantage of the algorithm right now, put out the valuable content, show up consistently and do it. And when you do that, you can build a thriving business. This is how I started my business over a year ago, and I built a very lucrative business. I feel very fortunate for that. And I've got some pretty cool accolades because of that, because I utilize the power of creating content and using it as a machine that I know can multiply my efforts. And that's a very powerful tool to have once you build the machine.
Well, it's a great point. We had Justin Welsh on the show, and he was talking about building a brand. And to the theme of don't think short term, he was saying long term, you get to take that brand with you once you leave your current company.
100%.
And a lot of
That's
times,
right.
if you're selling HR, not always, but oftentimes you'll sell to HR in your next job. And before you know it, that's kind of your niche. And so that brand will compound over time. And again, it's something you can keep, and it's yours.
100%. 100%.
Let's dive into the third suggestion, which was to use pattern interrupts. Most folks might know what it is, but can you just describe it so we're all on the same page real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very simple. It's something you say or do that gets the receiver to stop, right? It makes them stop, right? And that's a very powerful thing. And when they stop, you have now captured their attention, and now you have an opportunity to do something with that attention, okay? And that in today's world, it's a game of attention. It's all it is. Wherever the attention goes, money flows. That's it. So the more you can attract attention, hopefully in a good way. I mean, bad attention can still attract attention as well, but the more attention you can stop and get, you will be able to generate more leads business off that. And that applies across the board, whether it's content to your outreach, whether it's phone, email, whatever it's going to be. All of it can be utilized with pattern interrupts. And that's a very powerful way to get people's attention.
Sheena, you want to ask the example questions? And we can do prospecting, or maybe we can do, let's move, if you don't mind, Marks, from prospecting, Sheena, maybe like, I'm thinking this personally, and this is selfishly, I'd love to know places like oh, you want me to ask it?
Yeah,
okay.
go for it.
Okay. I feel like I'm talking too much. I want to make sure Sheena gets her.
You're good.
I get excited. I'd love to hear some examples, but I want to get to that in a second. Or maybe we should start with examples. Sorry, my mind's spinning here. Here's what I'm curious, Marcus. I'm curious is how you can use pattern interrupts somewhere in the mid to late funnel. You know what I mean? Like in a closing call and a proposal call, because I think those are really high stakes conversations. And 100%. I think for the most part, they kind of go a certain way. There's kind of a flow that a lot of sellers fall into. I'd love to hear if you have any pattern interrupts, maybe from your own experience and those types of conversations, how it's worked out and maybe kind of the results from that.
100%, right? So I'll give you a real good example, right? So, it was I'll share a personal one for me, right? So, this is like, middle to late funnel. I had a large opportunity for my business that I was working for a consulting, opportunity. And, early on, great conversations. I feel like I have everyone bought in, all the decision makers, the president, the CFO, and all these people. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm thinking to myself, like, you never want to, get too excited until everything is done, till you receive payment and things go, right? So
I'm like, happy years might have been setting in there.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm pretty excited, and suddenly they disappear. They ghost me. I'm like, oh, perfect. Okay. I'm like, okay, no big deal. First, it's like, don't panic. Just chill. It's going to be okay. Right? Like, you call them. They didn't call back that same day, and they normally do. And, your brain starts like, okay, what's going on? Did someone else enter the equation? What's going on? Wait a little bit, right? Wait a couple of days, another type of outreach, shoot an email over, no response, try shooting a text over, no response. And it goes probably 2-3 weeks, and I have a little touch points all in between, right? No response, right? And majority of salespeople, including myself, I'm like, dang it. Like, what happened? They're like, we had all these things lined up. You believe you've done everything 100% to that point, right? And you're just like, and it could be obviously a it could be a multitude of different reasons, right? So at that point, that's a great time. I probably could have done a little sooner, but at that point, I decided to inject a very simple pattern interrupt, right? And it was very, very simple, right? Like it's like I'm like, okay, if you think about this, when you think about email, phone call, LinkedIn, text is one of the fastest ways to get someone to respond realistically, right? It's very, very powerful. So I shot a text over to my contact, right? And it wasn't like I'm, like a breakup email, text. I'm not really in that type of stuff, right? But it
You
was
didn't send a bunch of guilt, Marcus. You didn't.
Yeah, I
You
know.
didn't tell them how your heart was
Exactly.
broken and that your 4-year-old's not gonna be able to get anything out of the Amazon
Oh
catalog.
yeah, I'm like this Hot Wheels deal, this like riding around Tesla thing they want. It's like so I sent over. It was just a simple meme. I just looked at memes are powerful for pattern interrupts. I looked just a fun meme. It was like annoying toddler, annoying toddler meme, something like that, right? And I just saw her text. I'm like, hey Denise, I don't want to be like this toddler here in this picture. Let me know best how I can support you, right? Within 30 seconds, she calls, right?
Wow.
She's laughing, right? Because now we introduce, as a pattern interrupt, some levity into the situation, right? She's like, oh, no. Hey, we're super sorry. Like, we had some turnover in the business for leaders, and it's been a hot mess. Like, I'm stressed. Everyone's stressed. We want to do it. Like, let's go ahead and set a time right now, of course. So we set a future time, and we end up getting the deal down the road. But my point is utilizing stuff like that, it's a little outside the box, can be incredibly powerful because it can shake it up, right? Whether it's a meme, and that's so simple to do. You can do the meme in text, in email, etc., right? And depending on your style, some people believe, like, some people for some reason never call cell phones. I don't know why. Like, you should call a cell phone. That could be considered a pattern for some people, like calling their cell phone. Like if you have a cell phone, don't call the office. Call the cell phone. If they provide that for you,
especially today.
Yeah, call it. I mean, like, especially like there's no reason, right? So those are the type of things you can do to really stand out, right? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like, it just took a little bit of thought, a little bit of Googling, a little bit of a screenshot, tidying that picture up, and just a very simple message and just sending it through. And you can incorporate that same concept for everything from your initial outreach to middle funnel, top of the funnel, or end the funnel as well. But the goal is get them to pay attention and hopefully engage. That's really the goal of that pattern interrupt.
As a buyer, I can definitely say that those pattern interrupts, when I've received them from folks who have been reaching out to me, are extremely helpful. Especially these days where everyone is busy, they're stressed, there's a million things going on. When you get that text message, it's just a reminder. So I highly encourage that form, like when it's appropriate, right? Don't do it on a Sunday morning when people are with their families. Do it at the right time and place.
Right.
And there's probably, and there's probably also like a couple things other things that have worked for me, again, on the buyer side. I was working with the vendor, things were busy, a lot of stuff was going on. They then invited me to like a roundtable type of session with other folks like me, where they were talking about topics that were relevant to me. That was interesting. I joined in, that kickstarted the conversation. It closed the deal. We bought software, we use it. It's great. And everyone's happy. So something like that may take a little bit more time. So I think, again, kind of depending on the scenario, who you're working with, who you're selling to, there's a lot of different ideas that can kind of bring their attention back in.
Well, I think at the end of the day, right, you bring up such a great point where it's like, sometimes a pattern interrupt isn't something goofy like a meme. Sometimes it's simply doing something out of the ordinary versus, hey, are you going to buy? Are you going to buy? Are you going to buy? Instead of doing that, stop and say, hey, here's something of value for you. Would you like this? We have this round table of other top industry leaders. If you want, just let me know, and we'll send you over, the registration information. Boom. Now they're re-engaged, right? So that's another great pattern just right there.
And I think too, to zoom out if you're maybe stuck on like, am I in a pattern? Is what you just said is like, do you want to buy? Are you going to move forward? Is, those emails you get, especially right now, it's December something. So Q4 and the year are wrapping up. I'm sure those emails are being sent all over the place. Is kind of going back to the toddler. When someone taps on your shoulder, you get about 3 taps and then you whip your head around like, what is going on behind me that is this important? And it's never as important as your anger level.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So if you're listening to this and you're wondering, hey, I'm in this spot, I've got 3 deals that Marcus just described where I can't get a response. Look at the last couple times that you reached out, and I bet you they probably look the same. So find another way that you can get on their line.
100%. Exactly right.
Good point. So number 4 on your list was to use power priming exercises, a bit of a tongue twister, to maximize your performance, a lot of P's. So what are power priming exercises? I'm imagining like getting down and doing like push-ups and sit-ups, but it's probably something else. Tell us more.
Yeah, so check this out, right? So at the end of the day, what a lot of people don't realize is you can control your state. And reality, whatever state you are mentally determines your results for that day. It's kind of like if you wake up on the wrong side of bed, you're like, I feel awful. We all happens to all of us, right? And then strangely, the rest of the day goes terrible. It's very strange. I know that's what happens, right? Like everything annoys you, everything bothers you, etc., because you did not change your state. And this is where you need to be able to have priming exercises that change your state. Okay. Like me personally, I have my own crazy morning routine to set myself up to go win the day. And I'm not saying everyone needs to do it, right? But my point is this, at the end of the day, everyone has 4 energy buckets that determine their level of energy, right? When you can manage your energy really well, you have really great results, right? And you have your emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual buckets. Your ability to refill those buckets consistently determines your output in life every day, every week, every month, etc. Now, everyone's got a different size bucket. So for some people, maybe if they have a really big physical bucket, meaning every day if they don't exercise, they feel not themselves, right? Or maybe it's spiritual. Maybe if they don't pray each day, they don't feel like they are on their game. So each person needs to determine for them what are those key things that when they do it, they feel on. They feel they are 100% and ready to go. And mistakes some people make is this. They wait till those buckets are completely empty, and then they're like, oh, I need a vacation. Well, you can't fly anywhere right now. So it's already too late. So if you think about this, if you can incorporate specific things in your day, and I'll share some of mine in a second, we incorporate some things into your day that will refill your buckets. That allows you to feel your best and be the best version of you, which means you'll be better on the phones, you'll be better at selling, you'll be better writing emails, you'll be a better parent, you'll be a better friend, you'll be better, husband, wife, spouse, you'll be better son. It does not matter, right? So I'll give you an example, right? So, and I'm going to share my kind of what I do in the morning.
Sure.
But it does not mean everyone needs to do it. So just so you know, so people get this wrong, like, oh, I need to have this crazy routine. Yeah, I have the routine that people make fun of in posts. I get that, okay? I'm over it. So I don't
At
really
least
care.
you're prefacing, so we know.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I know when I do my routine, it puts me in my best possible performing state, which allows me to serve my clients and everyone else at my peak levels. That's really important, right? So every day, I wake up at 5 o'clock. Like today, I woke up at 5 o'clock, right? I roll out of bed. No snooze, roll right out of bed. It's not easy. Somebody's got to do it. Roll out of bed. I go and I do a power 30-minute workout. It's already preset. I know exactly what I'm going to do. Today, I did 420 repetitions of a specific targeted muscle group, right? 30 minutes power, boom, go in and out, get it done. And while I'm doing that, so that's my physical bucket getting filled, I'm listening to an audiobook that fills my mind with the right things to grow my mind. So like I'm re-listening to Grit by Angela Duckworth. Great book if you haven't read that. So I'm feeling even more pumped after I listen to this, right? I go, I shower, and then I shower. It's 5-minute shower max, 5-minute shower, boom. Last 30 seconds, ice cold. Shocks the pattern, boom, right? I change, go downstairs, go to my home office, and then this is pretty new. I incorporate the Wim Hof breathing exercises for 5 minutes, right? Go through that, right? So very powerful. Sets the tone, I'm controlled, boom. From there, I then will write down every day, every morning, I write down my 1, 3, and 5-year goals. I write them all out. Then after that, I go through a series of affirmations. After all my affirmations are done, I then will visualize for 10 minutes. And what I've done actually is what I call my vivid vision. So I have written out exactly 1 year from now, exactly what my perfect day would look like, assuming I've accomplished every single one of my 1-year goals. And then from there, it's like I wake up at 5 o'clock. I feel energized and rejuvenated. I roll right out of bed. And it's like I'm describing not just what happens, but how I feel. On top of this, you're going to think I'm crazy next. So I've recorded an audio of me narrating to myself that perfect day. I listen.
Sorry,
I know.
I was holding in laughing just because I saw Sheena laughing. You see someone laughing, you can't hold it in. Yeah. I'm not laughing at you, Marcus. What I was laughing at was like going back and listening to myself do that. I'm like, I can't imagine
Oh, yeah.
you read like things you've written or, recorded a year ago, and you're like, man, I've grown so much. But maybe that's part of what your thing is. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was curious, like, as you're recording it, I imagine part of it is affirming what that vision is. But then do you
100%.
also go back and listen to like previous recordings, and maybe you're like reflecting like, wow, I've come a long way. Like, that's what I used to think. Now, like, look how much how far I've come.
Yeah. So here's what's really cool, right? So the recording I listen to every single day. And what's really powerful, it burns into your subconscious mind, right?
Sure.
So every day I listen. So when I'm visualizing, I'm actually listening to myself narrate my future self. And it's very powerful for yourself. Because here's the thing. It's uncomfortable to listen to yourself.
Yes.
It's very awkward. Okay.
I feel weird listening to reveal episodes after, hearing my own. I love hearing Sheena, love hearing Marcus and guests. When I'm on, I'm like, oh, mute that guy. Like, I just cannot stand it.
Here's the thing, right? If you notice it, my whole morning routine so far, let me finish. So once I get done with that, boom, I'm ready to rock. At 6:30 a.m. and I'm off to races doing my thing. It took me an hour and a half. I am now primed to give my best version of myself, because here's the thing. Once my day truly starts for work now, it can go to heck. It doesn't even matter, because I at least control the morning. Like at that point, I put myself in a peak performing state, and whatever happens. Like, I can't control it. Like things happen all the time that you can't control, but I can control the morning. So what's really cool is, like, when you do that consistently, you'll see it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to wake up early. It's uncomfortable to take ice cold shower. It's uncomfortable to do breathing. It's uncomfortable to listen to myself. It's all uncomfortable. But when you get really comfortable with the uncomfortable, it allows you to take more uncomfortable actions throughout the day, which means making that phone call, asking a tough question, doing those things you don't want to do. And here's the reality. When you can do the common things uncommonly well, you start achieving extraordinary results because of doing that.
That is
completely.
amazing.
Well, I am impressed. I was expecting a tall order, but I think I got like two. Like, I got those could be two successful people's morning routines. Gina, the other person that this reminded me of was Carl from Sequoia. He also wakes up at 5, hits the gym, listens. I think he said like ESPN, but a very similar thing here for some high performing folks. I am for listeners, I would say too, is if you're hearing that can sound like a ton, but I want to say similar, but even now I feel like I'm grossly over exaggerating. I have a relative morning experience, but I'll say is I picked one thing and I did it for a week or two, and then I added another thing and did it for a week or two. And so you can start to slowly compound what you're doing. Yes. And mine started as simple as I drink 8 ounces of water the second I get up. Like, when my feet hit the carpet, it's like a signal to drink the water that I put there the night before. Then you start building in, if exercise is your thing, or even just walking, 15 minutes of walking can be it, right? And now I'm up to the thing I'm getting, there's a couple steps in there, but the thing I'm trying to get to is like 5 minutes of meditation to get that kind of mental alignment and just listen to where I am. And I can say firsthand, the mornings where I do that cycle, I feel phenomenally better, especially around 4 o'clock. When you can easily hit a wall after a really busy day is when I'm like, I've still got some juice. Like, I'm ready to go be dad now. And, I think I can make dinner too. And you know what? I might write something tonight at 9 o'clock. Maybe. I'm not going to overcommit. Let's not get crazy, but I've got what it takes. And to your point, it is about just being at your optimal level and controlling what you can as much as you can.
Yeah. And I'll say, like, if you're listening to this, right, here's a really simple, this is exactly what I'll do. Cause I talked to a lot of people about, like, oh, that's a crazy routine. That's impossible. Like, I know. But remember, I've been doing this routine for 15 years and it didn't start this way. Okay. So for those out there who are looking to incorporate, priming exercise, it's going to help them be their best version of themselves. Number one, identify what's one thing that when you do it consistently really gives you energy. It refills, your soul, your heart, your body. You feel great mentally, right? Let's just say, for example, maybe it's reading the Bible. I'm just going to make something up, right? And maybe like, oh man, I can't commit to reading like 20 minutes a day. That's okay. Start off with reading one sentence a day. Okay. Like, tomorrow I'm going to start reading one sentence a day. And that's a very small, easy ask. You do that. And here's reality. You're probably going to read 2 sentences now, if not more. Right. And then you start adding on gradually. And you get to the point where you feel really good. Maybe it's 15 minutes and then you want to add something else on, right? So you are stair stepping your habit building to the point where you can have a great routine. Because now when I don't do my routine, I feel really weird. I feel weird. So it's kind of like I have a nighttime routine as well. It's the same thing. Like I was struggling to, I wanted to go back to reading hard, real books, and it was hard. So I'm like, I'm gonna commit to one sentence a day. And now I read at least 10 minutes a night. So it's just one of those things where you commit to one tiny action and allow it to build upon that as long as you commit to that one tiny action.
Well, I wasn't too far off when I was guessing push-ups and sit-ups. That could be part of someone's morning routine. And you have motivated me to figure out what I'm adding into my day. That's partly why I was laughing, remembering how I woke up today and what I did. I did get 15 minutes in of a walk right before this podcast. So that's what I've been doing.
I love it. I mean, you start finding different ways to make it better, right? So here's a really simple one. I have an under-desk treadmill right here. I have an under-desk treadmill I'm standing on right now. Right.
Of course you do, Marcus. At this point, like there's a Peloton in the back corner I can't see. There's probably
no Peloton. I'm not that fancy.
Are there weights?
I'm not that fancy.
No, the
weights are
okay.
No, Mom, it's in a different room. So yeah, it's in a different room. Yeah, it's killer. I mean, I've already done that's 10, 20. I'm a little bit behind right now, but I'm at like 7,000 steps right now. So it's just.
I'm envious of you. When I was on leave, I was walking. You walk, you do this, you're pushing a stroller around because you're excited.
Oh yeah.
The drop off on my phone from the amount of steps from the day I got back is worrisome. Is frankly worrisome, and I'm like, I gotta find ways to get more active. So me seemingly teasing you is really me projecting my own insecurity at your success, which is like I'm gonna Sheena, watch this. On Monday morning, we will think of Marcus Chan individually. I guarantee it. Yes. When we're not doing our morning routine, when it's 3 p.m. and I'm like, I've walked 400 feet, we will think of you, Marcus, and I will text you and go, you are officially an inspiration, and you're in my mind.
I'm like, just step 1, go to Amazon. Step 2, buy the treadmill, and then done. Just do it every day.
Just got to do it. Yeah. Just do it.
Exactly.
Well, cool. I know this has been great. We're running up on time. So Sheena, do you want to take us into our 5th question? Marcus, maybe just so I don't edit too much, maybe let's try to hit it in like 3 to 5 minutes. So kind of like a clean takeaway. And then we'll do our last question.
Yep.
Perfect. So last but not least, you suggested that reps continue to invest in themselves as we move into 2021. And next year, we don't know exactly what it's going to be like. It's going to be something different than what 2020 bring. But what areas of personal development do you see as making the biggest impact and that folks should really consider investing in?
Yeah, 100% right. I think to make it even simpler, right? So when you think about this, think about on December 31st, 2021, okay? Think about December 31st, 2025. Who do you want to become at that point? And what skills do you need to have to get there? What mindset, routines, and habits do you need to start right now to get yourself there? Because at the end of the day, who you are right now is a result of how you've been thinking and the actions you've been taking for the last year. So that's where you first start off with that, right? So if you out there are struggling with, let's just say it's, maybe it's some mindset stuff, right? You should be investing into your mindset, right? And it's investing into things. It's like whether it's a coach, a course, reading books, seminars, getting mentors, etc. Investing now and putting in the work will only pay dividends. If maybe you're not in the physical shape you want to be in, investing now to get yourself right there is key. If you don't write sales skills, same thing. Invest in your own sales skills. The mistake many people make is they wait for an event or someone to go and tell them to do something. But your destiny is formed decisions you make. So if you want to become the best version of yourself on December 31st, 2020 or 2025 or 2021 and 2025, then you must take action to invest in yourself now. Do not wait. Do not wait for your boss. Do not wait for anybody else, but start doing that now. And ultimately, when you do that now, when you start investing into yourself now, you will have the highest amount of dividends. And what's important to understand is people need to view investing as a way to change how they think and the results they're going to get versus spending money, right? Like I see people like, oh man, like, I don't know if I want to buy this book and spend that money. Well, buying books and knowledge expedites your speed. And, we talked about earlier, time is a finite resource. Anything you can do to speed up your learning curve and your skills will give you results. One of the top reasons people fail in life is because they are always waiting. They're waiting for someone or an event or something to happen for them to actually do something. They're waiting for the perfect circumstances. But the reality is waiting delays your future success and your ability to take the action to get to where you want to go in the future.
So true. So true. Do you follow Benjamin Hardy on LinkedIn?
I don't think so. No. Yeah.
Worth checking out. He talks a lot about how to build your future self, make the decisions today that you want to be later. So it was very much in line. I thought maybe you follow him as well. I'm a fan. Well, this has been great, Marcus. We like to ask all of our guests the same question to wrap up, which is, Marcus, how would you describe sales in one word?
Serving.
No hesitation. He knew exactly what it was about. And I think that's fitting, Garrett, given everything that you've shared today, and from the way that you go about not just your morning routine, because that's fresh of mind, but you said, what I noticed is you didn't say, so I feel my best. You said, so if I feel my best, so I can best serve my customers. I might be tweaking your words a little bit, but that was essentially what you said. And even too, is all the things that you talked about today were never of self-interest or, selfish desires. It was like, hey, if you do your best, it's just so you can put right back out. So I just described your one word for you, but it really resonated with me. And I really, really did enjoy this.
No, I appreciate that. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer. To sell effectively is serving at the highest level. If you have a truly great product or offer or whatever you offer, and you have the ability to change a business, a consumer, whomever, it is your duty and responsibility to sell at the highest level, because by not selling to them, they're not able to utilize those things going to help them. Like, for example, I think about what you guys offer. You can transform whole sales teams by improving the reps, right, and the leadership. So it makes zero sense why they would not want to invest and buy the program. It makes no sense to me. Like, I do not comprehend it, because to sell is to truly serve at the highest level.
That's wonderful. I am so inspired after this, this conversation. I am like writing my to-do list of the things that I need to do this weekend to like figure out my morning routine, buy my treadmill, start writing in my journal. I need to get all of that in order now.
I love it.
That's great. Sheena, text me what you come up with, because I think I'll be doing something similar. I've got a couple Amazon tabs open of things. So, Marcus, it's the first time I've had an Amazon tab open as a result of one of our interviews. And I'm really glad that we did this at 9:30 in the morning, because I've got it's been a long week. Today is Friday, but I'm feeling fired up to tackle the rest of this day, man. So thanks again for your time. You've got a fan in me, and dare I say, a new friend. So I'm excited. Thanks, man.
Hey, Devin, Sheena, my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. And you guys are friends too.
Thank you.
See ya, Marcus.
All right. See ya.
Bye.